For those of you who don't know me, I'm Beth Akeson, and I'm a Peoria City Council member at large. And in March of this year, a woman was walking down her street, and she had a small dog, and out of nowhere came a stray pit bull and grabbed the dog, killed the dog, chased her, and then during her screaming, the owner of the dog called the dog home, and by that point, the woman was terrified. Her husband was very upset. The dog, her little dog, was dead, and now here we are. She called me and asked if I would be willing. Actually, she made phone calls to all the city council members and asked if we would be willing to do something about this problem. She's lived in this neighborhood for almost 30 years. She's never had an issue. She was completely surprised. And I have now been on a journey to learn more about animals, their behavior, and what municipalities do to control them. Okay, so what we want to do through these meetings, and we've had a couple of task force meetings, we've had a small group meeting, and this is our first public meeting, and we may have more. There's another one scheduled for tomorrow night, but we'll see once the media makes this better, raises this issue to the surface, we may end up having more meetings. So our goal is to encourage responsible pet ownership, improve the safety and quality of life in our neighborhoods, reduce the number of dog attacks, and what we're going to do tonight is we're going to take a look at what existing conditions are, understand the cost of dog attacks. We're going to learn about the proposed ordinance changes that our task force and this small group and some of the task force members are here, what they worked on, and we're going to gain feedback from the public. And like I said, this is the first public meeting. We may have more. Okay, so this is a list of the task force people that I pulled together. And as you can see from this list, there's representation from law enforcement, there's representation from the hospitals, there's representation from the employers that send their employees out into the field, and they have no control over the conditions that they may meet. So they may come upon a dog that is not confined or not on a leash, and sometimes it ends badly, and sometimes it's just one more thing that they have to deal with. There are people on this task force that are citizens, and I think we've done a really good job. The only category that I didn't include is somebody from the school district, and I think that we may include the school district in this next go-around because education is obviously a really important part of this. All right, so what do we know? We know that the vast majority of dog owners are responsible. Anybody have any disagreement with that? I think we've got an animal control officer here. She can probably say the vast majority are minding the laws, right? Okay, so this is a list of what characteristics would be considered responsible dog owners would have. And Lauren, I don't know if you want to read through this or if you want to add anything to this, but Lauren helped put this presentation together, so I'd like to give her lots of credit.
Well, we consider to be responsible dog ownership qualities are people who keep their pets vaccinated and registered, keep them restrained to their own property so they don't create nuisances or problems elsewhere in the community, wear identification, rabies tags, and collars so that they can easily find their way home if they do get lost, provide proper shelter, protection from the weather, food, water, and medical care to prevent suffering so that the animal is humanely treated, have their pets spayed and neutered so they prevent unwanted births and overpopulation, and prevent their dog from barking or otherwise creating a nuisance in the neighborhood. Those would be the hallmarks of responsible ownership.
Okay, so why are we here? Well, we're here because there are dogs that don't behave. And Lauren does collect data. And as you can see from this chart, I don't know exactly where the number is going to end up for 2013, but you can see it's what it is. There are more dog bites than we want to see. We know that. That is at least a dog bite a day. Would that be correct, Lauren? Okay. So if it's a minor dog bite, most people can live with that. If it's a very serious one, even one is too many. So keep that in mind. All right, now, when the officers go to these calls, they keep a record as best they can what kind of dog has been involved in an altercation. And this is what the data shows today for the city of, well, this would be considered for the county, or no, this is just for the city, right, Chris?
I think it was just.
Yes, I think we extracted all the county.
That one, it says all others. I don't know
Right.
if it's watched
Oh, right. This
out.
actually-
The missing piece is all others, 28%.
actually,
26%.
you've got some colors that don't show up on there. That ends with Chihuahua. So there are a couple other slices of the pie here, and then there's what would be considered all other, and that's probably a result, Lauren, of either the owner not knowing what their dog is. It may be what people would call a mutt. Would that be correct?
Or there weren't enough represented of that particular breed.
Okay. Okay.
We only have one bite by a.
Yeah. And I want to remind people, we're talking about dogs. There are many other animals that cause the animal control to go out, and we're not going to talk about that during these meetings. Okay, so let's describe what a dangerous dog is. Any individual dog anywhere other than upon the property of the owner or custodian of the dog, and unmuzzled, unleashed, or unattended by its owner or custodian that behaves in a manner that a reasonable person would believe poses a serious and unjustified imminent threat of serious physical injury or death to a person or a companion animal, or a dog that, without justification, bites a person and does not cause serious physical injury. That has to have been written by a lawyer. Not enough periods and paragraphs. Okay. A vicious dog, a dog that without justification attacks a person and causes serious physical injury or death, or any individual dog that has been found to be a dangerous dog upon 3 separate occasions. All right, I'm going to take this, let Lauren handle this one. Determining dangerous dogs.
Well, the definitions that were just before are in the state code. This definition is in the City of Peoria's code, because the City of Peoria has home rule. They are able to bypass the state code and find an animal dangerous if it has been involved in an attack on a person or animal, or bitten any person or animal, if it's chased, molested, attacked, bitten, interfered with, physically intimidated a person while on or off the premises of the owner, has caused property damage in excess of $300, or presents a potential danger to the health, safety, and welfare of persons. So this one is much more lax, and it applies in the City of Peoria. However, I do not know that this has been used for some years, probably since '06 or '07. All the dangerous determinations have been under that state code.
Okay, so let's quantify what we're dealing with right now. So as you can see, and I don't think I need to necessarily read all this for you, I think most of you can see this. What we want to see happen, we want the potential of danger to be reduced. It's not just reacting to the attacks. We want to prevent the attacks from happening. We want to make certain conditions in our city, make it more difficult, and hopefully eradicate these dangerous situations. All right? So anybody have any questions about this slide? Anything? Okay, so number of dogs declared dangerous. You can see here we're nowhere near where we were in 2012. So I will have to see what happens by the end of January. It would seem to me that the dangerous situations would take place in the summer when the weather's nice, but perhaps I'm wrong about that. I don't know, Lauren, do you know why? I mean, why was 2012 especially more difficult year than 2011? Any ideas?
You know, it may have been the way we were processing those. In the beginning, we didn't count all dangerous dog investigations that began. We only counted them if they went to fruition and the dogs were actually declared dangerous. Some of this 73, there are not 73 dogs declared dangerous in 2012 that are back in our community. A portion of those were released to us, so they're not still out there. The number in 2011 doesn't include those that actually did not pursue getting their dog back.
Okay.
And the same is true for this number here, 25. We've done 25, but I got 41 cases total open. Some are still being decided and so forth. So
Okay, but it's not 41 plus 25.
Yeah.
The 25 is part of the
there's
41.
41, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think that we can say that Lauren and her staff run an excellent operation. She's doing her very best to make sure that we're safe and that the dogs and the cats and the other animals are well cared for. And the reason it's at 0 right now is because I think that we have, and Lauren, if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, but I pretty much, I'm from my involvement so far, I think Lauren does a good job of persuading people to understand that their dogs have behaved bad enough that they're not going to go to this category, right?
Right, a vicious determination requires a court appearance and a judge to make a finding of vicious and the animal to be ordered euthanized. There is a significant cost to that to the owner, and for it to reach this level, it has to have created what's called serious physical injury, which means someone had to be very badly injured for us to move to this immediately. So in all the cases that we've dealt with so far, anytime someone's been that seriously injured, the owner has voluntarily given the dog up after realizing what ramifications there would be if they kept it or tried to keep it.
Okay, now, I think that it's important for us to understand what the current conditions are, what kind of data we're dealing with, but I think it's also important to understand the costs associated with this. So I think that some of this information is going to be a surprise to most people. I know it was a surprise to me. These statistics come from the US Department of Health, and they manage all sorts of data throughout the country, and so these are national numbers. I think we probably could find out what our hospital costs would be, but I think this is pretty representative of what we know to be true. So the average cost of a dog-related hospital stay, dog bite-related hospital stay was $18,200. And surprisingly enough, it's also 50% higher than the average injury-related hospital stay. I think that's a real surprise, was a surprise to me. The mean length of hospital stay is about 3 days. The damage can be physical and emotional, and a patient may require surgery, hospitalization, physical therapy, and counseling. And on the lower level, I've credited the authors. Now, the next slide, oh no, that's not that. Okay, so top 10 states for dog bite claims. Here we go, we're number 2. Not necessarily the place that we want to be, and it's at obviously a very high cost to insurance companies and you as insurance buyers. So our high insurance rate are a reflection of how much cost is associated with covering these particular incidents. And then you can see at the bottom, the average insurance claim in 2012 was almost $30,000.
Councilwoman, is that taking the population, is it per capita, or is that just raw number?
Raw cost, it has nothing to do with per capita. It's just, so it's up there. It's really up there. Okay. Now, this slide is in this presentation because of me. I was given the advice of the assistant city manager not to show these slides. They are very disturbing. This is a child that was treated at St. Francis Hospital. If you have at all squeamishness, you have to either leave the room or close your eyes, and I'm not kidding. I want you to be perfectly, so are you going to be okay with this?
Fine.
Okay. No, I'm being very serious, because the reason I have these slides is because the family felt it was so important for me to show these, and they want the public to see them. They were taken by the surgeon, the 2 surgeons that operated on this child, and the surgeons feel very strongly that these need to be shown in public as well. Okay, so anybody want to leave? Okay. That's the little boy's ear. There's his ear. That's his face. That's his face. Okay, and the reason that it's important to see these is that right now, the data that's out there, and there's not a lot of it, show that even though all dogs will bite, in particular, the pit bull will deliver the most dangerous injury of all. And it's documented. There's a University of Texas study on it. And for what it's worth, for people who love their pit bulls, it's unfortunate that that particular dog, when the patients go into the hospitals, the damage that's delivered is so incredibly different than the other dog bites that it has to raise everybody to a level of understanding. You absolutely have to know that the responsibility that we have when you own a dog, regardless of its breed, you have to be mindful of the potential damage that these dogs can cause.
It's not just.
Okay, we're going to do questions and answers and comments, and I really want to get your input, believe me, really do. Okay, so what are we going to do to make sure that that incident doesn't happen again and again, and even one time is too much? And we've been really lucky that we haven't had any children or older people killed, but other communities have. And I think that what Lauren wants to do, what I want to do, what the assistant city manager wants to do, I think that we want to all come together and come up with what conditions would best serve our community. So what we're proposing is a category of reckless dog owner, which we haven't had before. Okay? We would like to propose, and these are proposals, we'd like to propose a reckless dog owner. We'd like to propose stricter confinement. We'd like to propose the abolishing of tethering. And I think I'd like to have Lauren maybe at this point, do we have a slide that talks about, I guess we do. So we'll go through these and then maybe you want to add, if you want to add anything. So the definition of a dog owner who violates the animal control ordinance 3 times within 36-month period, that would be running at large, failure to vaccinate, nuisance barking, bites to humans or companion animals. Prohibited from owning or possessing a dog within city limits for 36 months, must surrender all animals at the time of the declaration, and there will be the availability of a hearing and appeals process, obviously for due process. Okay, stricter confinement. Stricter definition of at large, and when my daughter and I were reviewing these slides, she said, "Mom, do people really know what at large means?" So for the audience or television, when the time comes, at large means running free, and I knew what it meant, but anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. Dogs must be contained on private property by means of a physical fence. You could have an underground invisible fence, which would be allowed, but only with proper signage. If no fence, may be tethered, but only under supervision. And then that seems like a contradiction here. Are we going to abolish tethering or are we going to allow it? But I think that we have probably a choice. You could say no tethering at all or tethering with conditions. So how do we define tethering? Tying a dog to any object by any means, including a line, chain, or rope. We would prohibit tethering unless it's within the visual range of the owner, and obviously the owner would have to be outside as well. Places other limitations on owner-supervised tethering. That means the type of the tether and buckle, the length of the tether, environmental conditions, and separate tethers for multiple animals. And maybe you'd like to talk, do you want to add anything to that right now, or?
Well, I just say that there are we discussed 2 options. One was the prohibiting tethering altogether unless an owner is standing out there with the animal, which means the animal could not live its life on the end of the chain. But the other option is just merely setting conditions for it, meaning that the animal had to have a proper collar, a length and weight of chain that was appropriate for it. It had to have food, water, shelter, access to dry ground at all times, protection from the weather. It couldn't be tethered within 200 yards of a school. It couldn't be tethered where it could reach public right-of-way. But that would allow tethering, but would just set certain conditions. So there are just two suggestions or 2 options that we had available to us.
There are lots of myths and misunderstandings. And when something is repeated time and time again, it takes on a life of its own, and eventually people believe it to be true. And one thing that I hope comes out of these meetings, I hope that we can institute more data collection, more refined data collection, and even through these conversations, Lauren's office is now recording injuries in a different way, so that's a really good thing. And I know that our emergency service department, when we get a dispatch call, if an ambulance is sent and there's bleeding at the scene, there's no description as to what caused the bleeding. It's the animal sent, the ambulance is sent, there is bleeding, and it could be from, whatever you can imagine causes people to bleed. So I'm seeing that we've heightened people's awareness about accurate data collection. The other place that we can make some headway is to have the hospitals do more to do data collection. Because right now, not every single dog bite that goes to the operating room is recorded as to what type of a dog it is. And I think that if we're going to be really good at writing policy, especially in the health and safety arena, we have to do it based on data. I think I've made everyone, it's perfectly clear we have to keep all the emotion out of this if we can. I know it's not always possible. These are very serious issues. And for that little boy's family, they're still very emotional about this. So for the end outcome to be the best for our community, I want to stay on data and not get all whipped up with the myths and the, what people believe. All dogs will bite. All dogs will bite. It's not the propensity. That's not the issue. The issue is the damage that's caused by some breeds is more than others, and you cannot dispute that. That is a fact. And there's no argument there. It's the damage that's caused right now by pit bulls is off the charts. So the solution is a couple of different things. We can either say we're banning pit bulls, or we're going to tell people, be an advocate and make sure that people who own them understand how dangerous these dogs are in the event they do bite. And I think Lauren will tell you that many of the incidents that we've had in the city of Peoria, the people that own these dogs will tell you that they are well cared for, loved. This was a total surprise. And in some cases, not all, but in some cases, they've been very upset about it. As a wrap up, I just so appreciate everyone coming. I was thinking that perhaps would be more journalists here than citizens, and so I'm really happy that you all came, and thank you so much, and it's been great. And if you've made a point of saying that you want us to know something, can you get with Chris so that he knows who you are and whatever, so that we can stay in contact? Because, and I have business cards with me, I can hand those out if you want to reach out to me as well.